Tipped in the air and knocked away. KU's got to win it. Blah, big time two-hand slam by Hunter Dickinson.
Kansas is the 2023 WNIT champions.
This is the Jayhawker Podcast, presented by the University of Kansas Health System.
Welcome to another edition of the Jayhawker Podcast, brought to you by three great sponsors: Xfinity, Kansas Health System, and Black & Veatch. I'm Greg Gurley, along with Wayne Simien, Kansas legend, and co-worker, Leavenworth, All-American. What else are you, bud?
That'll do.
All good guy, great smile. What do you got?
Well, we got a nice little conference run we're on. Nice little win in Stillwater, which is a difficult place to get a win in. And we just went right down there. Let's get right to it. We went right down there and hit him in the mouth. And
well, you know what our all-time record is in Stillwater?
It might be a losing record down there.
Close. It's now 38-36. And Wayne texted me during the game, probably halfway through. And before you texted me, I was thinking the same thing, because I have obviously played there. You've played there. One of the most difficult buildings to play in the country.
In the country, not just the league, the country.
Correct. And in my opinion, even harder back in the old Gallagher Iba, which did you ever go to the old one?
No.
So I say old, it's the same footprint, but it used to seat 6,000. It would go to like row 20. Now it goes to row 40. What they did was they basically cut the roof off, built a big bubble around it, and added an upper level without losing a season. It was kind of an innovative construction project, I guess. I was thinking that was going to be on a show I enjoy, Impossible Engineering, but it wasn't. But regardless, when it was 6,000, you would assume when it's 13,000 it's louder, but no. When it was 6,000, because I've been there when the 13,000 sold out, it ain't like what it used to be. But our whole point in all of this is tough place to go, kind of our first blowout against a good team or a league team. And it was never a game. I mean, we started out on a 6-0 run, which was the opposite of the way we started out in Orlando, down 7-0 like that. Bill called it timeout with like 18:50 on the clock in Orlando, and it was vice versa in Stillwater. They're just a young team trying to find themselves, don't really know what they're doing. And they're going to be good. They got talent all around. Mike Boynton's a great recruiter and a great coach. It's just right now they don't really know how to win. They caught us on a night that we were clicking. You know, every pass led to a bucket. We were getting dunks and layups. For some reason, and I want you to explain this to me, what would you do if you're playing against Hunter Dickinson and they just throw the ball to him in the left block and he scores like 3 times in a row? Like, what would you do as a coach?
Well, first of all, I love that whole dynamic whenever we get the bigs activated. And I really think that Johnny Furphy was the key to a lot of what happened that first half. Just this is even before the dunks, his will to sprint the floor in transition and allow Kevin McCullough and DeJuan Harris to hit him with the long pitch aheads is an important skill, and it's underlooked. Ochai Agbaji was elite in running the floor without the basketball. It's actually one of the skills that helped him to get that red shirt pulled off him when we needed to have a new burst of energy during his freshman campaign. By no means am I comparing Johnny Furphy to Ochai Agbaji right now, but I'm saying just
why not?
His emphasis and being able to do that because they're different athletes. But his ability in doing that really allowed him to get easy baskets early, and then it built his confidence to knock down those early threes in the first half. And then what happened after that? It seemed like the Red Sea parted up, and there was so much space out there for Hunter Dickinson to work, for KJ Adams to use 3 and 4 dribbles to find the driving lane. And so I don't think those happen. Your question started with Hunter Dickinson throwing the ball in the paint, back-to-back scores. That doesn't happen without the space that's created by Johnny Furphy because of the way he ran the floor, got the easy baskets, built confidence, and then was able to knock down those threes. And I think that's something that was really transformational for the Jayhawks in that win in Stillwater.
And what I was getting at, and you know this, it's why don't teams double team? I don't understand, because we haven't shot the ball great from the outside. I wouldn't let Hunter just go to work on one guy, because Hunter's 80% of the time going to score on that left block because he's very skilled and he's got a nice little left-handed baby hook. And the last couple of games, he's shown the ability to kind of go over the other shoulder and shoot it with his right hand. And he's just a guy that knows how to operate in the paint. And when he's able to step out and hit that mid-ranger and an occasional three, he gets the ball out top and guys are cutting off of him, and he's either handing it off, or, you know, if the big guy goes with the guy that might have an advantage, he can step out and make you pay with the mid-rangers. So things are really starting to click. I think the rest of the world and the rest of the conference is probably sick of us. They're probably sick of us complaining that our fifth guy isn't a star. Like, that's been the whole narrative of Kansas fans, right? Wow, God, we got four guys that are great, but we just don't have that fifth guy. And other schools are like, enough with your complaining, Jayhawk fans. We'd love to have four guys. We'd love to have three guys. But Johnny Furphy has come to that forefront. Bill made the decision after the loss in Orlando to mix things up. Media people get way more engaged in the starting five. Like, whenever I walk into that media room before a game, I get hit. You know, Gary Bedore and Tate, everybody's like, hey, who are the starters? Who are the starters? I'm like, why are you guys so concerned about who starts? True basketball people understand it only matters who finishes and who plays the most minutes. Hell, you could have started me over all those years and we would probably have the same outcome. I would have played probably 6 minutes, but I would have started a lot. It doesn't matter. It matters who plays the most minutes. It matters who impacts the game. It matters. With Elmarko, I think it's been a nice change. I don't know if he really realizes it yet, but I've seen something different out of him coming off the bench. I like, he's got to get into the mode where he's not going to get as much time. So he's got to make it count and make smart plays. And I think he's accepted it. I'm sure he's pissed. I won't blame him. And I wouldn't like it if he wasn't pissed, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if I'd use the word pissed, probably disappointed, because it all falls on him. I mean, he had the opportunity, getting, 10, 11 starts up to this point, wasn't producing at the clip.
As the public knows, my language compared to Wayne, he wouldn't have used the word pissed. He would have said disappointed or frustrated. Yeah. That's why he is the professional. Well,
when I hear that word, pissed, you're pissed at somebody else. You're pissed at coach because he's messing you over. And I don't think that he has, that argument to play. Be disappointed in yourself that you had an opportunity.
And the numbers don't lie.
And then, for sure.
And old coaches always say what? Hey, the big eye in the sky don't lie.
Yeah.
Film.
Plenty of film, stats. Body of work. Yeah.
We're 15 games in, or what are we, 17 games in? There's enough.
Yeah. And I want to circle back to some of your thoughts about Hunter being double teamed. Why don't you do that? I think we've seen teams attempt to double Hunter at times throughout the season, both in the non-con and in the conference season, and it just hasn't worked. And a couple reasons why it doesn't work. Number one, Hunter doesn't traditionally catch the ball right on the post. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. He allows himself to get pushed off the block and catch the ball, maybe at 9 feet. Now, the caveat behind that is he's skilled enough to be able to do that, right? Because he's got the touch and he's got the range. He doesn't necessarily have to work to get as close to the basket as he needs to. So when you catch the ball at 9 feet or at 12 feet, it's pretty difficult to try to double at that range as opposed to when you're on the block. All right? The double has to come and cover a little bit more ground. And then secondly, the dude is a giant and is an elite passer. He can look up over the top of any double team coming, high hands included, You can bring a 6'9" guy at him with high hands, and he's so big that he can actually look over the double team, and we've seen it in part sometime throughout the year. He's able to pick you apart with hard cutters like Kevin McCullough or Juan or KJ coming from the opposite side. So in a lot of ways, it's pick your poison. It's like, hey, do we force Hunter to try to score over the top, or do we allow him to face up for the jump shot or pick us apart with the pass? And you know what? I don't blame teams for forcing him to finish over the top because he hasn't quite done it at this clip through the full duration of this season as we've known it. But I'll tell you what, man, he sure did it well on Tuesday night in Stillwater.
You know, I love what you said there because I use that term a lot, pick your poison. We're a pick your poison type of offense on teams playing us. Like defensively, they got to make a decision. And I wish they would double team more because of exactly what you said. That Hunter's an elite passer. If not for DeJuan, he's our best passer. You know, but he's right there. That's why if you zone us, and we learned a lot from that Central Florida game that we didn't handle very well. But moving forward, when we do get zoned, there's not a better guy that we've ever had than playing the middle than Hunter Dickinson. Because Hunter, he's a security blanket. You can always get it to him in the middle. Everybody comes to him. And if they don't, he can hit that mid-ranger. He's a great passer. And he's just big, and it's easy. That's how you break down a zone, either through dribble or through pass. So I didn't like the fact that we didn't attack their zone very well against Central Florida. That was the difference in the game. But we now have film of it. We're going to be better when the next team does it. So the arrow is definitely pointing up. We're in a stretch of games that we should win, and I would say that we had our bogey, right? That was in Orlando. Now that turned out to be a better looking loss after seeing what they did earlier this week, going into Austin, Texas, and beating a really talented Texas team. And they took their show on the road, and it worked. Texas is obviously going through some stuff right now, and their coach isn't happy about how that game ended. I don't know if you saw. Did you see that? Rodney Terry, he was not happy with some of the antics of the Knights in the handshake line, and I'm I don't know. I mean, I get your opinion on it.
I hate handshake lines. You know how I feel about that. Get rid of handshake lines altogether. NBA's got it right. Dap people up, show love pregame. Once the game's over with, do like the NBA, wave, pay your respects, walk to your bench or walk to your locker room. Just call it good. I'm not convinced, side tangent, that the best display of sportsmanship is being forced to walk through a line when emotions are at their highest, when your competitive juices are at your highest, and say good game to the other. I'm just not quite convinced of that. I know that traditional people want to keep that around and hold it with high regard. Maybe it's because of my short cup of coffee in the NBA. I could see that we could do without it, but I'm not a big fan.
Well, the one word you said in there, which I agree with, anytime you force somebody to do something, it doesn't always work out. 90% of the time, it's probably going to be fine. But that 10% or that 1%, like last night, it didn't work out. And whenever you say you have to do something, that's when you got problems.
You scroll, tap, swipe, text, call, and do a lot more on your phone. None of us can fathom life without all the world's knowledge in our pocket. We use phones for just about everything. But when it comes to doing the bigger things, like streaming, gaming, and working, you shouldn't be limited to just your phone screen or mobile plan. You see, millions of Americans don't have home internet. They're forced to do everything on their phone or through their mobile service via a hotspot. Or they go to public spaces and use unsecure Wi-Fi, which can be problematic when dealing with personal or sensitive information. You deserve reliable home internet to fit your life and your budget. And right now, Internet Essentials Plus from Xfinity is free through the Affordable Connectivity Program. Get unlimited data and equipment included with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com/free to see if you qualify. Restrictions apply. After program participation ends, Comcast standard charges, taxes, and fees apply. May not be combined with other offers.
So as you look at moving forward, we get the big win against Oklahoma at home. It was one of the last unbeaten teams in the country. And they came in here as a 1-point game at half, and we really pulled away in the second half. We've had back-to-back games, kind of an interesting stat where one guy has 15 in the first half against Oklahoma, doesn't score in the second half. Another guy in Stillwater has 15 in the first half, doesn't score in the second half. Kind of something interesting, but I like the fact that it was KJ Adams against Oklahoma. It was Furphy against Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked about Furphy was the fact that he attempted one shot in the second half. He didn't force things. Like a lot of times freshmen are like, all right, eyes get big. I had 15.
Yeah, you get your career high. Don't forget that. It was his career high in the first half, and that's a time where most guys start hunting and think that they want to add to it.
But he didn't. He did the little things. I thought things that really spurred us on in that first half too was his defense. You forget his length.
Absolutely.
I think he's listed at 6'9". He's probably 6'8", but that's a long 6'8", an athletic 6'8", and a smart 6'8". Like he does a really good job positioning defense. He's starting to learn that he's not the best defender, which isn't horrible. I mean, most freshmen aren't, but he's gotten caught a couple of times trying to pressure too much, and guys go right around him. So he's finally starting to figure out that I don't have to be right on him because I'm going to get beat or I'm going to get called for a foul. So he's a quick learner. I watch him in practice, and I love how quick he picks things up. And we have a star on our hands on a team where he's not going to crack the top three. I mean, Kevin, Hunt, KJ, right? So it's fine. Bill's amazing at getting guys to figure out about sacrifice, giving guys to figure out pie is always big enough, everyone have a slice, all that jazz. He's really, really good at that. And winning solves a lot of that infighting. Like, I want more shots, right? We might have 2 All-Americans on the same team. And the way KJ's playing, he's not going to be a first-team All-Big 12 guy, but KJ doesn't make one of the first, second, or third teams, I'd be shocked. Because what he's doing right now, his energy, his work on the glass, he's shooting, I don't have it in front of me, but his field goal percentage is near the top of the league because he dunks everything. I mean, it's a great mix. We talked a lot about how we have a very, very thin margin. Everybody's got to stay healthy. We got to be out there, foul trouble, all that. But there's not a better starting 4.5 in the country.
And when's it going to be solidified as a full-blown 5? How many more games does Johnny have to compete really well in that? But I love that you brought up his defense, because to me, I thought that was as impressive as his offensive output in the first half, because at times he's been a defensive liability. I remember being a stretch against the Oklahoma game where, and this is what's going to happen, like, it's just a part of it, they are going to hunt the matchup. And when they see he and Nick Timberlake in the game, like Oklahoma did, they're going to attack that matchup. They gave up 8 points consecutive between the two of them. I think Johnny Furphy got attacked twice against OU, subbed out, put Nick Timberlake in. They attacked him twice, gave up 2 more baskets right there. Like, it's just going to be a part of it. But I like how Johnny was able to keep guys in front of him. And they got really good athletes there in Oklahoma State to be able to do that. And it really seemed like that was his focus and disposition that he had there, not continuing to hunt shots, even though the game was well within hands. You talked to margin for error. You talked margin for error, and I think we certainly know that's the case. One thing that I really was encouraged by from Tuesday's game in Stillwater was when I looked at the plus-minus column for Nick Timberlake, El Marco, and Parker Brown. It was even, right? It was even, if not above. I think maybe Parker had above, was in the positive. All right, that's about all we need. Like, as long as those guys come in and aren't like a liability, turning over, fouling, not winning their matchup, as long as they stay in the plus column, in that plus minus, and it doesn't have to be enormously high. If they can just stay even in that category, that's about what we need them to do with the other 5 guys that we have. And so, I know that's not a stat that a lot of people get excited about, and you look in and I was like, well, man, they still didn't score. They still didn't do this or that. Just don't hurt us, right? When you get your 3 to 6 minutes of pop, Just don't hurt us. And hey, and can we talk about, I didn't hear the call because I was watching on, how about Nick Timberlake turning it over on Bryce on that dunk, that one leg down? I remember I was sitting back on my couch watching with my boys, had my arms up on the couch, and I stood up, hey, yo, we saw the mixtape. Nick Timberlake had a nice little mixtape coming in when he was a prospect in the portal. He had shown some things to be able to do that athletically. We have not seen it yet, and I love the way that he was able to finish that play, which was one of the plays of the game.
Yeah, we just had a press conference, and Nick came to the press conference, and they asked about the top. He was number 3 on the ESPN top 10, and he talked about how, hey, growing up, you watch it. I mean, basketball players, any athlete watches SportsCenter every night, and obviously your dream is, be in the top 10. And he goes, it's probably not going to be from shooting the 3. So he goes, I got it. And what's the term I've used it, I don't know if you have, that Nick's got sneaky athleticism, which I don't really like that term. He's an athlete. And we saw that right there, out on the break. Bryce went up with him like he was going to get him. And just the opposite happened. He got Bryce. Bryce is on a poster. He's on ESPN for the wrong reasons. And, man, he punched on him hard. And I think got fouled, too. They didn't call it. I was kind of surprised at that. But
yeah, I thought it was an and-one for sure.
The only way that was going in was with the dunk. And so I love that. I think that can be a big confidence boost for Nick because in all this discussion about Johnny and El Marco, Nick's going to be an important part of this team moving forward and in the first 15 games because there's going to be nights. I mean, we're in a stretch now that we're getting ready to go to West Virginia. Then 48 hours later, we play Cincinnati. Then we go to Iowa State. Like we're on a stretch of a lot of games. I mean, we went through that stretch in December. Where we played like one game every 8 days, and it just seemed like we didn't have many games. Now it's over, and this is we're by the time this comes out, the team will have gone to West Virginia a day early, kind of like we had to do in Orlando, both weather related. So I'm going to have an extra night in one of my favorite cities in the country, Morgantown. Did you never played in Morgantown, right? No,
I never played there, but been there. Great Marriott there. They got a good little setup there.
The Bourbon, the hotel lobby bar. I'll be spending a lot of time there. A Bourbon Barrel or something like that. Mm-hmm. Then we go to Oliver. I know I always equate all my trips with hotel bar and restaurant. Actually, really good food. And I'll walk down that whatever river. It's hard to say, Masahagi or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really pretty in the middle of January when it's dark and cold and snowy out. But we'll make the best of it. We'll head to Morgantown, some of the nicest people in the world, until the ball goes up, and then they're brutal. They don't like visitors. And but then after they yell and scream at you, hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to Morgantown. Can't wait to see you next year.
And that's a brutal football environment. That's as vicious of a fan base from a football perspective. I remember our first time playing there in Morgantown when I was still hanging out on the sidelines with the football team, man. We lost, I think, maybe 3 or 4 scores, and they were still spewing venom on us on our way out the door, which was pretty rough. But certainly a passionate fan base, and very much like Stillwater, it's a difficult place to win. And so we'll certainly have to be ready and not be casual, which is one of the things that I think kind of got us against UCF in Orlando. Is we just seemed a little casual, even against TCU. Like we found a way to win that game, but there wasn't much sense of urgency. There wasn't much, hey, dominance. Hey, we're still the top of the food chain in this league. You got to come through us. We're going to be the ones that hit first instead of wait to be hit. We're not going to feel out the game before we, get into our bag. And so it was nice to see that casualness, kind of take a back seat during these last 2 games. And even against the Oklahoma game, I mean, it felt like we were in a driver's seat the entire game. And that was against a top 10 team, and so I thought that was really good. And look, I got to tell you, we've talked about some of the bench guys. I got to take some time to brag on Parker Brown. All right. This dude is doing everything we need him to do. All right. He's as dependable and reliable off the court as he is on the court. Veteran, enjoys being here, knows exactly what his role is, isn't trying to be more than he is capable of being, isn't trying to go out there and prove with his minutes, hey, coach, I should be playing more. He is serviceable. And he's leading the team in blocks. You can guarantee a couple things. When Parker Brown gets in the game, he's going to get a block. He's going to protect the rim, and he's probably going to get a lob or a putback, all right? And so when you think about that type, probably his most productive game is probably 4 points, 2 rebounds, and a block. But when you think about that in a 4 to 6 minute stretch, I mean, that's important. And so, I'm really, really pleased with the contributions that Parker Brown has been giving us, in all of those categories. And of course, it's underrated, but I think it's important, especially from a culture standpoint and a role standpoint.
Yeah, everything you said, I love it, because Parker has been so valuable. And I don't think our fan base really looked at that signing when he decided to come. It was kind of like, oh, it's Christian's brother. He's a journeyman, didn't play much at Missouri, didn't really follow him at Santa Clara.
Some people, honestly, some people probably thought it was a courtesy. Some people probably thought it was a courtesy to CB and the Kansas City family that, hey, he's on his last hurrah. We'll offer up an olive branch and allow him to kind of, ride the coattails and helping us be able to get to another conference championship and beyond that. But it wasn't a courtesy. The dude can play, and we're being able to see that.
And you know basketball, I know basketball. Coaches don't really do courtesy things for scholarship kids. There might be a walk-on here and there. Bill's trying to win. Coaches are trying to win. And again, I think you're 100% on point. A lot of people probably thought that, but Bill saw it, and he listened to Christian. And he listened. I mean, Christian tells him about one of the best point guards in the history of Kansas basketball, right? DeJuan Harris isn't here without the Browns. Parker Brown isn't here without Christian, right? But to your point, so valuable. Always makes an impact whenever he goes in. Always has a kind of a half smile. He never really smiles. He never really smiles a lot, because he's pretty serious, and he's completely different than Christian personality-wise. I mean, he's the most just quiet, just kind of like, oh, shucks guy. But you wouldn't even know that they're brothers. But man, can he play? And
this is how valuable he is. When he checks in the game, and even before the conference play started, when he checks in the game, I have an expectation of him. I expect you to get a lob, to get a block, and to get a couple rebounds, and to not let your guy score. We've got some guys, that hit the check in, and you just don't know what's going to happen. Like you literally don't know. Are they going to make a shot? Are they going to turn the ball over? Or what's going to happen? I have an expectation on Parker when he gets in to make sure his minutes are used effectively, and it usually happens on the defensive category with a block, rebound, or a lob, and that's been helpful for us, and it's going to help us win games.
And think about part of the reason why he's a fifth-year senior. He's been around. He's been in a couple different leagues. He's seen a ton of ball. He knows it. And you get these older guys, and all they want to do is what? Win. They look at Remy Martin, and they're like, okay, Remy had a nice career at Arizona State, and he won a national title here. So that's kind of how it works out there now. Guys, you're going to get guys like that with a swan song at the end of their career, like, all right, yeah, Hunter's a great example. Hunter could have easily gone back to Michigan, been a hero there. 4 years, we've been on all the charts, all the points, all the rebounds, everything at a really, really good program. But he saw the light, and he's like, okay, I can go somewhere else, have a chance to win a national title. That didn't appear like that was going to happen there. And man, that's fallen off significantly with his departure. Michigan has struggled mightily. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know if you were watching on Sunday or whenever it was. The Fab Five all came to whatever their last game was. I don't remember which night it was. But Ray, Jimmy, Jawan, Jalen, and Chris were all there. I think for the
first time back. Yeah, I think that was their first time back.
And that's my age guys. I graduated the same year as those guys. Went to all the AAU tournaments, and they were unbelievable. And I don't know if you're never going to have anything like that anymore, because there's been better recruiting classes since then. You look at Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, and R.J. Barrett at Duke. Those three guys probably better than the Fab Five, but at that time, because they weren't all McDonald's All-Americans. Jimmy King and Ray were close, but they were just really good together. It was just one of those things that just clicked, and they were a cultural phenomenon, and it was, and not to mention, really, really good. Like, really good. Like, didn't win a national title, but we're right there twice, back-to-back Final Fours.
Yeah, I look forward to those opportunities, and hopefully we'll have some in the future, especially with some of the Jayhawks that we've got currently playing in the NBA, where they get a little bit up in years and beyond their playing days, to where they can all make that type of return back in that ovation. You know, whether it's Wiggins and an Embiid together, or get that full collaboration of that 2008 team to come back, eventually the 2022 team to come back, and that'll be a great type of celebration that we saw there that they had in Michigan. But I'm a fan too, man. I mean, I grew up, watching the Fab Five and cheering for them, and of course, I remember the baggy shorts and the bald heads a little bit more than the timeout that was called, and then of course, no one liked Duke back then, and you got a chance to see them beat up on Duke. I'll throw out the UNLV team in the early 90s as being one of those teams that I also grew up watching it and liking, and I will put them in that same light. But hey, how about this? The homer in me, you stack those dudes up against the 96 team here at Kansas, and I think that's one of the best collaborations of college talent of all time. We all know the way the story ended fell a little short against that, but that's as good of a team as there ever. Maybe we can get them back. Can we get Rafe back? Can we get him off the tractor up in Iowa? Can we get Jock to, he's going to be coaching a long time in the NBA. That might be a little bit tough, to get him back.
This is a good trivia question. I've used this a bunch. 1997 was the last team to have 4 NBA players on their team that played a minimum of 10 years in the NBA.
And is that the last Kansas team or team ever?
Ever.
Yeesh. And
before that, you got to go back to the early 80s, North Carolina. It doesn't happen very often, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, and Ryan Robertson was on that team too, and he had a nice little career in the league. Was he on that team?
On
96, was he a freshman? Yeah.
But think about that. I mean, yes, Ryan had and he'll tell you, we'll have Ryan on. So he played 1 year in the NBA. Those guys played 10. Jock, Rafe, Paul, and Scott Pollard, who I do want to make a shout out right now to our
big shout out.
And brother Scott Pollard is having a really, really tough time health-wise, and there's been some articles written over the last couple of weeks, and he's in need of a heart transplant, and it's a tough deal. It's a family history deal that he lost his dad at a young age, and he's dealing with that right now. And obviously he's a large person, and it's tough. And look it up, because you look throughout the internet, there's articles about it, and he's not asking for anything. He's not asking for money, or he's just told his story, and it's I hosted him on his recruiting trip. One of my best friends, teammates for 2 years, and him as well as anybody as well. I mean, he's just an icon here at University of Kansas, and a 12-year NBA vet, and great family, and it's just a sad deal that when it happens that he gets a new heart, I think he'll be fine. But that's a tough sled right now.
Yeah. Big shout out to Big Scott, man. Get well soon. Hopefully he'll get that heart found out, get the ticker in there, get going, get you back in the field house, bud.
That's right. But yeah, let's use that. We'll get Scott healthy, Rafe, Paul, Jock, Ryan Robertson, Billy Thomas, Jared Haas. Great team. I've been a part of some really difficult endings to seasons as a player, as a broadcaster, as a fan. In 1997, Birmingham, Alabama was one of the lowest, because I think they ended up 34-2. That was their second loss. Oh, why would you bring that up?
What are you talking about? I was talking about the great college teams of all time. I was trying to give you your flowers, and then you go to this deep, dark place of loathing and disappointment, man. Come on, we're good. We're good.
As we, talk a little bit about the league, we're not quite a quarter of the way through. Everyone's played about 4 games. Kansas is at the top, along with others. Obviously, it's we got Kansas, Texas Tech. Who else we got? I took a picture of the standings. What did I do with that? Baylor dropped one at K-State the other night. So we got Kansas, Baylor, Tech, and K-State. Didn't know really what to expect, losing Noel, losing Tomlin, losing Keontae Johnson, and they're right there at 3-1. Got a big win against UCF, and they got a massive win the other night at home.
Yeah.
Down 5 with a minute to go, and they come back and win it in overtime. And so, not rooting for them by any means, but impressive nonetheless. And so they're right there. Houston, I watched them last night. And have you watched Shed play? Jamal Shed?
Yeah, I watched them get clipped though that night in Ames when they were having struggle making a shot, and they muddied things up. And look, as kind of as we thought, you got to have your head on a swivel the entirety of the league. There's no gimmies. All right. Again, we talked about kind of to the Jayhawks detriment earlier about coming in casual. Like, if you have any air of that about you, you will get beat in this league. And so, to me, and we talked a little bit, hey, we want to talk some sleepers. There are no sleepers. Okay. There are no sleepers. There are teams right now that started out, 1-3, that could go on an 8-9 game tear and find themselves up towards the top of the pack and be as dangerous late in February as any team in the country. And so just as I survey the league, and even as I look at the schedule, my gosh, there's no gimmies. Like, I expect every game to be a knife fight, and I got that sentiment even the way we started out our conference opener against TCU, and we haven't even had a chance to talk about that. But unreal, the stretch of conference opening wins that we have, that doesn't get highlighted nearly enough. But thankfully it usually results itself in a conference championship. But yeah, you got to have your head on a swivel this year, and especially with some of these new teams that are coming in trying to make a statement. That win that Cincinnati had the other night. These things mean something, to these folks, coming in. We've been casual and had our feet kicked up, for years in the driver's seat of this conference, the Big 12. But man, these new teams, man, they're hungry, they're appreciative to be here, and they certainly want to make their mark early on. And everyone in the league wants to make their mark against Kansas. And
looking at the standings, we haven't played Baylor. We play them twice. We haven't played Texas Tech. We play them twice. We haven't played Kansas State, and we played them twice. So the other 3 teams that are both 3-1, we've got 6 games against them. Oh, and by the way, Houston at 2-2, we play them twice. So you look at the way that the schedule is somewhat unbalanced. Not somewhat, it is unbalanced, because we only play UCF once. We only play Cincinnati once. We only play BYU once. But the teams we play twice are some of the best teams in the league, including Oklahoma. We still have to go to Norman. We don't have to go to Texas. We don't have to go to Fort Worth. But we have not played the top tier yet, and we're 3-1.
Yeah.
Schedule is what it is.
Hey, and when it comes to scheduling, from now on, I expect us to have the hardest schedule every single year. We have a commissioner who's, doing his darndest to make the Big 12 the all caps, the established basketball conference in the country. And one of the ways you do that is to show off your marquee matchups each and every night. So guess what? I expect every year in and out to play a Baylor twice, to play Arizona twice, to play Houston twice, because you got to highlight your best products. You got to sell your best products. And so I don't anticipate any open vacancies when it comes to scheduling when we're not having to go against a big time matchup.
How about this week's top 25 poll? 8 teams. I did that wrong. I did 3.
all those digits there.
8 teams from the Big 12 in the top 25. The next closest, 4. So this is the best conference. We've said it many, many times. Right before COVID, Texas Tech is a jump shot away from winning a national championship. They lose to Virginia. 2020, we're the best team in the country. Baylor's right there with us. The following year, Baylor wins it. COVID cut the previous year off. Following year, Kansas wins it. So you look at that 4-year span, obviously struggled last year, but you still had Kansas State and Texas in the Elite 8. So it's the preeminent conference when you talk about basketball in the country over the last 5 years.
It's a nice word there, preeminent. I like that. Well played.
I kind of said it slower, so I pronounced preeminent.
Yeah. Did you say that so you could say it better or so that I can understand it?
Uh-huh. But yeah, as you look at this schedule, or you look at this league, down at the bottom is Oklahoma State, and they're going to probably, unfortunately, be at the bottom. They got 3 McDonald's All-Americans on their team, but they just don't have much flow. And I witnessed it.
They don't guard. They got to guard somebody. They didn't get 3 consecutive stops, not once, on Tuesday, and they were down the whole game at home. I mean, if you want to have a chance, you got to be able to stop some people. But we'll quit piling on the Cowboys there. But
yeah, and then West Virginia at 1-3. We're going to find out tomorrow. We'll be in Morgantown and taking on the Mountaineers. Tough place to play. They had a lot of juice in the off season until Bob Huggins unfortunately had to step down. And they had a great transfer class. Kerr Creesa, Edwards. Then they got the reprieve by the NCAA. They had a couple guys that have transferred twice, and they got that injunction or whatever it was to where they could become immediately eligible because they kept getting denied. So they had a lot of stuff going on up there, and they haven't quite got there. But even though they're 1-3, what's the worst thing to mess with? A wounded dog. And they're a wounded dog right now, and they're going to get healthier. And this is a stretch. If we want to win the Big 12, we've already got our bogey. We got to keep making birdies on the road. You dropped one that you shouldn't have against UCF. You have a 16-point lead, and you just let it go slip away. Great. They proved that they're better than we thought. Beat Texas the other night, but as you look at the bottom of the conference, and you got Texas, UCF, and then a host of teams at 2-2. So early on, everyone's close, but a lot of basketball left, and really, it's going to happen pretty quick. I mean, we got less than 2 months of the regular season left. It's going to go by fast before you know it. We're going to be into March. As we walk around our hallways here, there's construction everywhere. And when the season's over, there's going to be even more construction. So everywhere you go in Kansas athletics, something's getting better.
Well, a couple things thinking about these early first 4 games, and you talked about the gauntlet that's left for us. A couple things are really, really apparent. Against TCU, which we squeaked out, and against the loss against UCF, 18 turnovers, both of those games, right? 2 signature wins that we just had here recently, one of them being on the road in a tough environment and against a top 10 opponent. We took care of the basketball, right? I mean, have you ever – I mean, it's a record, so no, you haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but, man, taking care of the ball the way we did against OU. And then, look, 11 turnovers in Stillwater, that's as impressive as that. Had we not got 2 turnovers only the game before, we would be really highlighting the only 11 turnovers that took place on the road there. And so I think –
And I don't want to blame the guys at the end. About 3 of those were late in the game when it was over earlier than that. Yeah. But 11 was on the high side. So, yes, I agree. And taking care of the basketball on the road is paramount. You have to do it. And we have back-to-back 18 turnover games. And, again, Bill took credit for one of the turnovers against Oklahoma. Did you hear that story?
No, I didn't.
He's screaming at KJ. He's like, get on the post. And so KJ takes off running on the post, and Kevin pitches it ahead to KJ, but he wasn't looking, and Bill caught it, and he goes, that's – because I hate it when players go, when they have a turnover, it's my fault. We're like, listen, dude, we know it's your fault. You don't need to tell us it's your fault. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
But anyway, he took credit for that, so it was really one.
Yeah, no, and that's great. So, I mean, look, teams around the league should be taking note of that if you want to have one of the best chances of beating us, you're going to have to heat us up somehow, get up under us, and try to force turnovers, whether it's with a, junk defense or, we know West Virginia, what do they do historically? They press and they foul. And they're going to foul and maul you as much as they can because, look, the officials they're not going to call everything. They're only going to call, what they can call and then, allow the flow of the game to play out there. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that trend from our league opponents of trying to pick up the defensive intensity to try to force us into turning the ball over at a high clip, which we've been susceptible of doing in those first two games. But it's going to come down to can we handle that pressure and take care of the basketball.
And a lot of it's going to fall on DeJuan, and I think DeJuan will be the first one to tell you that he hasn't played like the old DeJuan. I think he's been great, but he hasn't been elite like we've seen him. His float game's just off a little bit. He's turning the ball over a little bit more. Now, I'm not complaining. Don't want anyone else out there. Don't take it the wrong way. It's just we've seen such a level of point guard play out of him, and it's probably come back to the pack a little bit. Not going to put somebody else in there, like I said, but, Kansas fans, Kansas insiders like us, we know how good this team can be. We already talked about how Furphy's added something to the core four that you're like, all right. And other teams are probably not pissed. They're upset with us because we think, well, we got to have five. We got to have five superstars, right? Doesn't everybody have five superstars? No, just you, Kansas, just you. So, but we're excited about Furphy. I think I'm excited about DeJuan continuing to improve from a substandard start to his year, which again, I think he'll admit is not saying anything out of turn, but we're greedy. Like you're greedy, I'm greedy, Bill's greedy. We want better, right? But we're 15-2, so I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're exciting and had another exciting moment a week ago in the field house. Kansas women's basketball got the big upset over at the time number 3 ranked Baylor Bears. First win against them in Brandon Snyder's coaching era, and it was a signature win they were looking for, that they needed, that they were laboring for, and all the potential and the pieces that we know they've had and shown last year and even this year finally came together. Tiana Jackson was dominant. She stayed out of foul trouble, stayed on the court. Holly Kerskeeter was great. Samai Nichols, 5-star freshman, had an impressive fourth quarter in building on that and their second win in a row against Oklahoma State. Tough stretch of the schedule for them as they then went on down to Austin, Texas against the number 1 team in the conference, picked to win the Big 12 against Texas Longhorns, took one on the chin there. And then they're going to be on the road against K-State coming up here, who's got out of the gate hot as well. But nice to see them get a signature win, and hopefully it's something that they can build on as they get into the dog days of conference play.
Yeah, and always need to give a football update. A little bit of, what's the word, trepidation, a little nervousness amongst the KU faithful that the runner-up in the national championship game, when Nick Saban retired, decided to go to Alabama, which opened up a spot at a really good program, obviously. And
the coach of carousel.
And our guy was mentioned, which is flattering.
Good
I'd rather
problem
not
to
be
have.
flattered and him not even be asked, but obviously there was a couple of days there where people were like, oh, and we brought up the guy that actually got the job a couple podcasts ago, that our former administration, when interviewing coaches, couldn't remember this cat's name, but now he wins a big bowl game at Arizona, turns that into a big time job at Washington. Jed Fish took the job, so KU Jayhawk football fans can relax. There's probably one more bullet to dodge, I would guess. It seems like Jim Harbaugh, which is crazy to a lot of people to think that you just won the national championship and you're going to leave. Now, there's a lot of other factors going on that I'm sure will be discussed by their people, but for our purposes, as Jim Harbaugh makes a decision to stay or go, we'll see what that coaching carousel looks like. It's a domino effect, and we'll just sit back and watch.
Yeah. Hey, good problems to have, right? Good problems to have, because we've had plenty of years of Kansas football where, our head coach had been mentioned as a coveted prospect for one of the top jobs in the country. Personally, I think that Washington is certainly closer to their ceiling than we are to ours, and we got a lot more room to grow and a higher trajectory as things seemingly are opening up in the conference with an easier road to potentially get to the CFP. But hey,
because it's getting to a point where money isn't the driver. Like, if he was making $1.5 million and they offered $8 million and we said we're going to offer $2 million, I get it. But that's the great job by Travis Goff and his cabinet to keep our coaches here at the rate that they're here, where you can sell the fact that, hey, we got a good thing going here. We're getting ready to go into a new league, so to speak, that there's no longer a fight for the middle. It's a fight for the top. And we're going to be mentioned in that top 3 or 4 in the Big 12 next year with all the weapons we got coming back, not to mention all the excitement around the stadium, all the excitement around just this entire athletic department. So I think that helps a great deal in the decision-making process for our coaches to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned the stadium. Stadium's all the way down, at least the renovation there. My boys were sledding down the Campanile Hill and watching the final remnants of the west side of that stadium drop down. Pretty special moment that they had there. They thought that was pretty cool. And
is there any video of you sledding?
No video. No video there.
Did you sled?
I did not sled. Yeah. They got each other. I was in the car, nice and warm, waving, sipping coffee, listening to
You didn't get out of the car?
We don't need that. I'm past that, man. I'm past that. But no, it was a pretty cool moment there, and it'll be great to be able to see that awesome new facility start to be built from the ground up. And we're also going to be rolling out some new premium products here very, very soon. Got a couple more suites to get sold. And then we get a chance to get the club seats and low seats and all type of new offerings that we're going to have there. And so you and I will be busy coming up this spring, just like that construction crew will. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to engage with a lot of the Jayhawk faithful as they're going to be out visiting the preview center so that we can take advantage of some of these brand new elite premium areas that we're going to be building and adding to David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, to Wayne's point, 18 new premium areas, suites down to club, down to field level. Picture a craft and draft like at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, North Patio. I kind of feel like I might be a North Patio kind of guy, man. I like that craft and draft spot they got at Kauffman Stadium. You might find me posted up there.
So give us a call, give Wayne a call, give me a call the Williams Fund. We'll host you over at the Preview Center, beautiful facility that we built over there that has a big movie theater, and it shows you all these pretty pictures and videos. And it's really cool. You and I have sat through that probably 20 times in the last month, and I can almost recite that verbatim with no teleprompter, but it's really cool, and it's finally here. You and I have been around a long time, and we've heard all the noise. We're going to do it, and we don't. Finally doing it. I just drove by it earlier today, took a video, sent it to some of my buddies that live out of state, and they're like, man, that's down. And there's dump trucks driving down Michigan.
Keep them rolling.
Rolling. 2 at a time, 5 at a time, and getting that rubble out, getting some new stuff in. It's going to be cool. But big week as Kansas basketball heads back on the road to Morgantown. I'm getting on a plane here in about 3 hours to hit my favorite urban bar on the road, the Marriott Waterfront, Morgantown, West Virginia. Get back, 48-hour turnaround, playing Cincinnati. Our first look at Cincinnati with former Roy Williams player Wes Miller as the coach. So they're 2-2, but they're 13-4. We look at them as a bottom feeder. They're 13-4 and 2-2.
And they got good basketball history. They got really good basketball history. Matter of fact, my favorite non-KU college player of all time.
I know the answer before you say it. Danny Fortson. No?
Swing and a miss, but they did play the Power Four. Kenyon Martin. Yeah, Kenyon Martin.
My third would have been Nick Van Exel.
Okay, I thought you were going to go Oscar Robinson and kind of keep the big guy theme, post-player theme.
I'm too young for Oscar, but yes.
Yeah, Nick Van Exel was awesome. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, DeMar Johnson was a great one, but no. Kenyon Martin. When Bobby Huggins was there, had them rolling. He was my favorite all-time KU player.
I just kind of thought Danny Fortson, you guys kind of had similar bodies, similar play, kind of a banger, no?
That's fair. No, that's fair. Sure.
That's it.
Yeah, Cincinnati in the blowover, man. I'm excited for them to get settled in the conference and be a formidable opponent year in and year out. And Wes Miller's a great coach.
Yeah. So doesn't get any easier, and that again is not it's not Baylor, Houston, Texas Tech yet. So obviously we know this league. This league's going to be a bear, and we saw that in Orlando. We're going to see it in Morgantown this Saturday. So excited. It's fun. It's a great time. It's busy. A couple nights out, home, games. Love it, right? What else are we going to do?
Yeah, that's it. We're in it. Let's do it.
Got a new sponsor here on the Jayhawker Podcast, Xfinity, brought to you by the Next Generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Black & Veatch, another great sponsor of ours, along with the University of Kansas Health Systems. So extremely fortunate to talk ball and KU athletics every week. Wayne Simien, Greg Gurley, Rock Chalk.